Welcome to Monarchist Minute. I'm Victor Smith. Tonight, Russia and Ukraine are in a major conflict. So we are going to talk about that tonight.
It was supposed to be a fun episode. Remember how we said, or I said, if assuming nothing major happens, it's going to be a fun episode. And then Russia just has to do it. But why?
Well, I can think of some reasons why Russia would do that.
Because
But
Putin is raining bombs over Ukraine, he decided to rain on our parade as well.
No,
yes.
I mean I played poker. I played poker with him on Tuesday. He assured me this wouldn't happen until March.
He assured us it wouldn't happen at all if Ukraine didn't join NATO, but here we are.
Actually, that meme that the Russian. So remember how a few weeks ago the Ukrainian Twitter account posted like that headache meme. It's like migraine, headache, and then it's like living next to Russia. Well, when Russia was allegedly supposed to invade on St. Valentine's Day, which would have been a. Do the Eastern Catholics have a different saint calendar? Anyways, no. So
a little bit different.
Okay, anyways, that's not besides the point. But anyways, so the Russian government, on the day that happened and they didn't invade yet, they posted like a Pulp Fiction, like the guy who's like he's standing there looking around all confused. It was a gif of that over Ukraine. It's like Ukraine on such and such, because I don't know. The fact that World War III started with memes is funny. I don't know if it's World War III yet, but
This is peak 21st century.
I went off this crazy train. I want to go back to my medieval. You know what? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't know why God saw fit to put me in this time period specifically, but He did, and I just had to figure out why.
All right, and now that we have the hullabaloo out of the way, we will get to the meat of the matter. On, I believe it was Wednesday. Yes, it was Wednesday.
Wednesday evening, Thursday morning for those,
Yes, on Wednesday evening U.S. time, Russia sent troops and tanks and other stuff into the eastern regions of the Ukraine. And right now, I believe they are in Kiev, which is the Ukrainian capital.
Oh, please tell me they haven't taken it yet, have they?
No,
I don't believe so. Of course,
has yet to fall, but it's about to get interesting. As in, probably Berlin or Aleppo leveled urban fighting. Remember back Civil War in Syria first started and we started getting all that film out of like the suburbs of Damascus and Aleppo?
Okay, guys, update. They are in the suburbs of Kiev. They are not in downtown Kiev. Of course, we are recording this, for those of you listening on YouTube, we are recording this on Friday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, Friday night. So by the time you are getting this information is most likely going to be very out of date.
A lot of crap's gonna happen over the next few days, and honestly, it's going to be stressful seeing how this plays out. I honestly hope that the Ukrainians send the Russian army packing, because as long as Kiev still stands, Ukraine still stands. And honestly, knowing Russia, they're going to send as many troops as it takes to try and take Kiev, because we know Russia and they have no regard for preserving the lives of their soldiers.
Right.
Well, there is the thing of Russia has a severe lack of male population, so that might play into it. I know.
No. Russia. This is really the tragedy of it. I think I can't remember what year it was, but it was sometime in the early 1920s. If you were a male born in, let's say, 1923, you had an 86% chance of being dead by 1945 with all the famines and the purges
Mhm.
and whatnot. Like an entire generation of Russian men, and to a lesser extent Russian women, never got to grow up, get married, and have kids. So you have this interesting phenomenon as a result with the Russian demographics, where Russia's population will rise slightly, where the children of like the 30 and 50 generation that was coming of age, like they're coming around, but the generation, but the like grandchildren and great grandchildren, whatever, of the generation that would have been coming of age in the 1940s, that didn't happen. They don't come of age because they're all dead and there's no more kids coming out of that generation. So Russia's population will slightly grow and then slightly sink. And then combined with that, I don't think the Russians are as prevalent with abortion as we are, but I still think it's legal over there. And it certainly was during Soviet times, which also helped
It
compound
has
the
one of the
factor.
abortion rate.
Highest abortion rates in the world, I believe.
They do? Ugh.
And
Much for
so,
being.
But
okay.
anyway, so the point is, Russia has been having a demographic problem ever since World War II, because who knew World Wars are terrible? Hint, hint, Putin, hint, hint.
So, okay.
News.
So rather than because of the delay in when we get this podcast out on YouTube, we are not going to be discussing specific troop movements that are on the ground as we speak, because that information is going to be incredibly out of date by the time you are listening to this on YouTube. So instead, what we're going to be talking about are potential reasons why this is happening, potential geopolitical ramifications of this happening, etc., etc. Now, we will say right off the top that the heiress to the Romanovs made a statement from Madrid yesterday that has been tweeted out and posted to all of our social medias today. And William Stout, if you would like to read that statement in full for everyone, I don't have it in front of me. I apologize.
Allow me to get it pulled up real quick.
Okay.
But back to the whole demographic thing. That probably is why Russia has such a cultural, I'm trying to think of the word, zeitgeist around grandmothers and grandmothers raising their grandkids. Because there was a whole entire generation whose parents were probably killed off as a result of the war.
Yeah. I honestly think they can't play that game anymore. I mean, now that hell, America is more populous than Russia is, so I don't think they can play that numbers game anymore. So that's kind of out the window, especially how much they're probably guarding their.
Years of horrific economic policies, years of unstable domestic policies, years of just Russia being a horrible, horrible place to live has resulted in people not having a lot of kids, and they're paying for it now.
It's
And I
almost
don't.
like legalized contraceptives may
And I
also have played a
that
part.
well. The Russian GDP is like the size of the Benelux country. From the one map I found, like overlaid the GDP over the Benelux, and it was about that size. So, needless to say, if NATO gets in there, we're gonna figure out how unstable Russia really is. It's really like a shell. It's a shell of its former self, and it's propped up by Putin. And once Putin falls out of favor with enough people, it's just going to be too bad, in my opinion.
I think Russia could easily be considered the only third world country that's also a superpower.
And I mean,
Actually, technically speaking, Russia was a second world country.
well, yeah, because
That was
originally, third world was just supposed to mean countries that weren't directly involved in the U.S.-Soviet conflict. We were the first world, the Soviets were the second. But everybody just uses third world country to describe poor and impoverished nations these days because, it's not
All
like we
right.
need to use that Cold War terminology.
Enough delays. The statement from the Duchess.
Yes.
Events taking place in our homeland cause me extreme anxiety and deep sadness. Fully recognizing the independence and sovereignty of all the states that were formed after the fall of the USSR, I am at the same time convinced that all of the peoples who historically belonged to the former All-Russian Empire are united by the concept of a homeland in the highest spiritual and cultural sense of the word. It is frightful and painful to see how, for the past 8 years, brothers and sisters, whose fathers, grandfathers, and great-grandfathers together defended their common homeland, have been pitted against each other and spilt their blood. How peaceful citizens are dying and suffering, how parents shed inconsolable tears over the coffins of their children. Now, the course of these events have culminated into an even greater cataclysm. The Russian Imperial House does not make statements of a political nature, and in any event, in the current condition, we do not have a complete information that would allow us to make such without risking unintended harm. But we are utterly convinced and will always affirm that Russia and Ukraine, all their populations, must never be enemies. This is as monstrous and unnatural a thing as members of the same family murdering each other. I, my son and heir, the Grand Duke George of Russia, and his spouse Princess Victoria Romanovna, I probably butchered that pronunciation.
Romanova.
Romanova, thank you. Pray for the immediate implementation of peace.
And
Oh wait,
I'm
there's
just going to
wait.
I'm going to give her her proper title, not the Grand Duchess title, but the title of Empress, so I will refer to her as such. Your
Ugh.
Imperial Majesty, if you are listening to this podcast at all, if you are listening to this, oh, there's more. I apologize.
Yeah, you cut me off right before the last paragraph.
Oh, I profusely apologize. Continue reading.
We are deeply grateful for those who are now making efforts to prevent war and provide assistance to the suffering, the wounded, those who have lost their homes and belongings, and refugees. May Almighty God save our peoples and may He free us from fratricidal anonymity. Her Royal Highness, the Grand Duchess Maria of Russia, or as she should properly be called, and I think Victor was getting into this, Her Royal Highness and Majesty Tsarina of Russia.
And now we're getting
Actually, the
into
title would be Her Imperial Highness
well,
for
now
her.
we're getting into the whole Russian succession thing, and I don't want to stir up
Right.
that pot. As a Jacobite, I'm only allowed a certain number of controversial opinions on succession, and at some point I had to shut up. So it was either take a stance on the Russian, it's either take a stance on either France and Spain's thrones or the Russian throne. I couldn't have it both ways. I couldn't pick both. Anyways,
Right.
but
So what I was going to say was, Your Royal Highness, if you are listening to this podcast, we are deeply grateful to your statement, and we are deeply moved by your compassionate statement on behalf of your people. Our prayers are with you and with your family in what is probably the most difficult time that you personally have ever had to deal with. And so I hope and pray this message gets to you, and I hope that you can take comfort and solace in knowing that a group of Americans care enough to have your statement read out loud on our biggest platform there is, or biggest platform we have,
Yeah.
and just know how grateful we are to you for your leadership in this time of great crisis. And in this time of great crisis, our American president is returning home to Delaware for the weekend.
Yeah, I was gonna say something about the Romanov letter, but I guess we can talk about this first. Bruh, Biden. Okay, I get it. Okay, everybody needs a vacation, but this is not the best thing to do publicly right about now. I mean, even if you do literally nothing else, like even if you do literally nothing over the weekend, nothing, right? It would not have caused a worse image than you flying off to Delaware of all places and make jokes about Are there any jokes about Delaware that we can make? Yeah. Okay.
Delaware is his
I know.
home
State.
state.
Yeah. I know, but
Second
still, Delaware.
for being an irrelevant state.
Reject Delaware. Reject East Coast. Embrace Midwestern supremacy. Anyways,
I can't say that without getting outed. So
well. Anyways, I think that if I may, we should. I would like say a few words on the Romanov statement, actually.
Please go ahead.
Okay, and then Aiden, because he just hopped up. So, I think that, and I left us. I think that this statement really highlights one of the crucial elements between monarchies and republics. And a monarchy can be and has been in the past, multi-ethnic, right? That the monarch, despite the fact that he may be of one ethnicity, is supposed to be beholden to all. Now, was the Russian Tsardom a perfect example of that? No, it wasn't until I think the late 1800s or early 1900s that the rights of Catholics in the Russian Empire was more fully respected, and then of course the Soviets came in and yeeted that whole situation. But but the fact that the Russian people, I mean the Russian Tsardom, ideally what it was supposed to be, and what I think it would have been had Tsar Nicholas II been allowed to rule, I guess in time of peace, because as far as I'm aware, he was a pretty great emperor for the struggles that he was facing. What it should have been is all these people bound together by a common faith, which in this case would have been Orthodoxy, but ideally it would be Catholicism, of course, but and loyalty to the Russian throne, which has a certain claim to the eastern half of the Roman imperial legacy, like the Habsburgs have the rightful claim to the western half of the imperial legacy, but the the
If
But
I
the problem with sorry, I just figured out what I was supposed to say. So the problem with these republics and federations, or whatever you want to call them, is that the states are going to try to be ethnically homogenous. You can't really have different racial, the different ethnic groups are going to be pitted against each other, and they're going to have to be racially homogenous, right? If Russia if Ukraine was, if for some reason the Tsars just packed up and went to Ukraine, and Ukraine was the last vestige of the Russian monarchy, or for some I don't know, it's completely unrealistic, but just go with me. Then the Russians in Ukraine would probably, assuming that these emperors are ruling correctly, they wouldn't feel a need to go over to Russia, because they already have an emperor who's taking care of their interest, right? So like how in the Austro-Hungarian Empire, in the last days of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, when everything was falling apart, you had a group of Austrian Serbs who were fighting against Kingdom of Serbia Serbs, and the Serbs from the Kingdom of Serbia are like, why don't you surrender or whatever, the war's over, yada yada yada. And the base Austrian Serbs say, you of all people should know, we Serbs never surrender. And but because those Austrian Serbs, it wasn't about ethnicity, it was their loyalty to the Habsburg crown. And if Russia and Ukraine were both ruled over by the Tsar, as they ought to be, then this whole ethnic conflict wouldn't be happening, and it wouldn't. I mean, for the sake of administrative ease, it would matter where the lines are between the different subdivisions, but ultimately, it wouldn't matter that there are Russians in Ukraine and Ukrainians in Russia, if there are any Ukrainians left in Russia. But I mean, that's that, right? And I think that her comments about how in days past the Russians and the Ukrainians were fighting side by side as brothers, which more relatable to me because Western Europe, the Hungarians and the Slovaks and the Czechs and Serbs and Austrians were all fighting together under the Habsburg banner. That is one of the benefits of monarchy that you can avoid, assuming the monarch isn't going to use that to play to his advantage and he's a bad monarch, but you can use that. I mean, you can have different ethnic groups be together and not fight, but with our republics, this is what you get. This is not a surprise.
If I may weigh in on the whole issue of Ukraine and Russia, the idea of Ukraine and Russia being separate states actually doesn't begin until the Russian Revolution happens, and that's because the idea of Ukraine and Ukrainian nationalism was the kulaks who were
And
the
we can even trace the history. The
Yeah, I was about
history
to say.
of Russia, the Russian state, goes back to
Kiev.
Kiev.
yes, Kiev, the Kievan
Kievan
Rus.
roots.
The idea of Russia was born in Ukraine. And, Vladimir Lenin made the comment that if you want to thank someone for Ukraine existing, you can, wait, did I just say Vladimir Lenin? I meant Vladimir Putin.
Oh
But,
my goodness.
well, Putin said that we can
This is going on our blooper reel, by the way.
Probably not. Okay.
No, wait, Putin said we can blame Ukraine on Lenin, and he has a point in that because the idea of Ukrainian nationalism came about partly because the Ukrainians were anti-Bolshevists. A large portion of the Ukrainian population were anti-Bolshevik.
Based and anti-Bolshevik build.
And so they formed a revolution to counter the Russian-centered, because the industry of Russia was mainly in the cities of Moscow and in north-central Russia, whereas Ukraine was more rural and agrarian and belonged to, like I said, the Free Cossacks, minor nobles, the kulaks,
Based and agrarian build.
part of the Ruthenian agricultural belt that was added to the Russian Empire from conquest from the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth.
Cringe and taking over Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth build.
Okay, gosh.
I'm
So-
surprised, bro. PLC, Will or not Will? Charles.
Wait,
They
what
were-
was the question?
I didn't know you were pro Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. I thought
I am.
What?
Look, what? Who isn't pro Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth? I
mean-
suppose.
at least was in later.
Lithuanian Commonwealth was one of the best things that ever happened to Eastern Europe, objectively.
They were
It is.
pretty. They were pretty liberal for the time. That's why I'm saying, Charles.
Well, I mean, back when they were based in Catholic state build, I didn't
Yeah,
know that I didn't know they ever
They
embraced
had
that
a
cringe
parliament,
enlightenment.
but monarch and everything.
They were Europe's token elective monarchy.
Yeah,
Not only
well, the elective process I'm not a fan of, but the fact that the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth was a Catholic
technically,
board, but
and what we can also talk about, like, I wanted to mention, firstly, the news story that Russia is threatening NATO
Yep.
if let me go up. Russia threatens serious military repercussions if Finland joins NATO.
And it's so sad that this foreign policy strategy of threaten someone who wants to join NATO, scare them into indecision, and then invade them anyway. That's basically what they did with Ukraine, and it actually worked. It's
I
so
mean,
so
stupid,
fast.
but it worked.
well,
There's still a huge chance that this might backfire for Putin big time. I mean, it's already been devalued. The monarch or the monetary,
ruble.
the ruble has been devalued. If he doesn't end this within the next week, it's probably going to last months, and it's going to lead to a Great Depression within the Soviet, or not Soviet Union, within post-Soviet Russia.
Are you a time traveler from 1987, John?
Uh,
No.
If
I mean, no. I
if
mean,
time
Finland.
traveler, there wouldn't.
I just wanted to give you guys a figure. The ruble right now, which is the Russian currency, one ruble is, at my last check, worth a penny.
Time to buy in the dip, boys. Anyway. Oh wait, that's illegal now. Anyway.
Oh
I,
my god, if
Yeah,
you guys look
the
at
Russian economy is collapsing right now.
if you
I know.
guys actually look at the trend since 2008, the Russian ruble has done nothing but decline.
yeah, I mean, no. I mean, but here's the thing with Finland. I don't. I because here's the thing. Looking at my old Kaiserreich headcanon hand-drawn map that shows clearly Greater Finland. But anyways, it was a different time. Anyways, no. I mean, Russia, like countries joining NATO. I mean, Sweden's basically already on the, to quote, what's his name, John Doyle, is already basically a part of the global homo agenda. But I I I was always hesitant about getting Ukraine to join NATO, not because because I didn't want Ukraine to become culturally dominated by by us and our sick perverted society.
That's
And
Now they're
crazy.
getting politically dominated by Putin.
And
so yeah, it's rock and a hard
we're
place.
really stuck between a rock and a hard place. We're stuck between Putin's agenda and that type of world idea in the West. And the West isn't that good, and Putin's ideas are worse. So
Eh,
Okay, West is culturally. Here's my philosophy. The West has a lot of culturally immoral issues, but then there's Russia, which is horrifically corrupt, vile, and generally a horrible, horrible, horrible government, and a horrible run by a very, very, very terrible man who poisons his political rivals with radioactive polonium, so they die a very slow and painful death due to heavy metal and radiation poisoning.
well, whereas we just take control of the journalist's car and ram it into a tree.
I will take your normal everyday European Americana degeneracy over pure evil any day.
Yeah, no. I mean, but I mean, I guess that's sort of where we're at a thing, because Russia right now ain't good. America.
Sorry.
Oh no. I mean, when it comes to whether or not I would want to live under our present evil regime or the Russian regime, I sort of see them as two sides, as I'm holding four quarters, so eight sides of the same four coins. Um, I mean, it's just that the Russians are a little more blatant about the fact that they're controlled by one agenda, whereas we think that we still have any say over national affairs. Uh,
The real insidious thing
the
about
thing about Putin is you have a man that has been defined by many things. He's a former KGB agent. He seems to be in bed with the more uber national conservatives of Russia. So he's kind of like, you apply what you want to him, and that's what you're kind of getting now with Russia. But it's all a personality cult, basically.
Well, yeah,
It's a bureaucratic personality cult that, and that's one thing that everybody thinks monarchy is. This is what they think we are, folks. This is it.
I am insulted.
And this is why I hate all of the ultra traditionalists who are simping Russia right now. Because all the social conservatism, all the religious conservatism in Russia, it's a ruse, it's a guise, it's a false persona that exists purely for propaganda.
I have great admiration for Russian saints, for Russian Orthodoxy in times, but at this point, they really need to, which I know they're not going to, they're in the lap of Russia, but they really need to evaluate what's more important, their flock and the souls of their flock and the Russian people, or a shilled out, disgusting Russian government that is incorrupt to the point of no equal. Are they going to step up or not? And I don't think they're going to, which is deeply saddening.
And it's completely political that they are working, basically, they are in bed for Putin, because Putin has set up legislation, the Russian government has set up legislation that guarantees that the Russian Orthodox Church has sole rights for evangelicalism and missionary activities in Russia. No,
I don't want to say Caesaropapism
really
to describe the Russian patriarchy, but
other Christian denomination is allowed to engage in missionary practice in Russia besides the Eastern Orthodox Church.
No, the Russian Orthodox Church. You got to be more specific now, especially with
And Victor had something he wanted to say.
Yeah.
Yes, I wanted to. Thank you very much for mentioning the ROC, John, because I was going to make a point. Vladimir Putin sees Ukraine as being so important because of the Russian Orthodox Church seeing Ukraine as being rightfully part of their territory and not allowed to be independent by the Greek Orthodox Church. Because I forget his name, and I know you'll yell at me in the comments, but I believe his name was Vladimir something, was baptized in either the Dnieper River or something.
Are you talking about Saint Vladimir the Great?
Yes.
Yes. You got it right. I mean, it's Vladimir. The English pronunciation of it's Vladimir.
So if I remember correctly, he was baptized in the Dnieper River, which is one of one of the longest rivers in Europe. It is a very important river in Europe, and I believe it is in Ukraine. I don't know if it's in Kiev specifically, but Kiev was where Vladimir was, I want to say, based out of, which is how we get the idea of a Kievan Rus. That is why it is so important to Putin to have Ukraine as part of Russia.
I honestly don't think he sees this as a religious mission. I think it's a part of it is to be more religious minded as to appease the Russian Orthodox, but I honestly don't think he's in it for religious means. He wants to try and retake Slavic land, or land that belongs in his mind to Russia. That's what I think is going on in his head. I don't think it's religious at all.
Which is why he is trying to pressure Finland.
Well, yeah, no, I mean the thing with the whole Russian Ukrainian patriarchy debacle, that is sad. And correct me if I'm wrong, but it's Patriarch Bartholomew is the
ecumenical patriarch.
Bartholomew is Constantinople. Kirill is Moscow.
Okay, I think it was the Russian patriarch who said this, and he said the schism is like a divorce, and I agree with him. I don't like to see,
It's honestly
and maybe this.
ironic. It is incredibly ironic to
Well,
hear
yeah,
him.
coming from the Russian Orthodox, but no. I mean, I don't like to see any further schism of the church. Okay, and the Russian Orthodox may not be in full communion with Rome, but they still have valid sacraments and they still have valid apostolic succession. And I do not want to see them split apart even further. And maybe it's just because as a Latin Rite Catholic, I kind of think it's odd, and I'm not odd that you would have churches based off national lines. I'm not saying that there's anything inherently wrong with it. I just I feel like that's a
Weird.
little odd, but especially when what was it, Louis the
Well,
14th tried to get a
Well,
we have our own history with different Catholic churches being the Irish, the church where the Irish went to, the
well,
church
yeah.
where the
Going into
Germans went
that,
to
I
on the
mean,
same
again.
block.
Well, yeah,
they're not supposed to be seen as ethnic churches, if that's what you're getting at. They're seen as national churches, but they're not national churches where to be kind of annexed by the government. The whole point about it is the people in that nation should have some synodality in regards to that patriarchate. So that's the whole point. It's not about ethnicity. It
Okay,
is
but
let's get off the religion train because
yeah.
let's
I don't
let's get
really
off the religion
want.
train. Let's
well,
discuss some future steps for how we think the United States should be responding to something like this. And I think the number one response that we can do, and this is irrespective of anything else, that this is irrespective of what Russia's doing, we should be doing this anyway. We are right now a net importer of oil, not a net exporter of oil. And we can have a debate as to whether attempting to slow climate change down is more important than energy independence. We can have that debate. However, we are now in a situation of war where the main thing that Russia produces to the world that makes Russia rich is ding, 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 oil.
This is actually a bigger issue in Europe, particularly in Germany.
Of
Due
course. And the reason why we're in such a pickle in Europe is that Europe gets their oil from Russia, partly because they allow Russian oil companies to build pipelines to them. They would have to pay our oil companies lots of money in order to import our oil.
it's a simple matter of we're an ocean away and they're not. But also, I don't think that in a better but not perfect world, I don't think that the Europeans should be getting their oil from us while we're degenerate whatever and we're the source of all their problems. But
And of course, I should also make absolute mention of the OPEC places in the Middle East, namely Saudi Arabia. You can also get your oil from Saudi Arabia,
but then you
but
have to deal with transporting that all from the Middle East. Russia's just closer. I mean, it's literally right there on the same continent.
I have a better idea. Germany stops being wimps, reactivates all their nuclear reactors, and goes back to having 80% of their energy needs supplied by nukes.
What I thought they were only shutting down their reactors because they were doing so well with like wind and solar and other renewables. I didn't.
Shut down all their reactors because back when Fukushima happened in 2011, all the Germans got scared. Meanwhile, based France is running 91% clean carbon-free energy off a nuclear reactor.
One of these days, we're just gonna have to go on a pro-nuclear tangent because
I'm
nuclear
perfectly okay with doing that right here, right now.
nuclear
actually,
energy based.
we have an update from a guy called Prussian Dixie who's in our server. The Green Party of Germany opposes nuclear energy, so that's why there's no nuke energy in old
And
Deutschland.
this is why I hate environmental activists, despite being so big on environmentalism and stopping global warming. Because everything they do is so counterintuitive to actually creating a meaningful solution to climate change.
Yeah, I mean, nuclear reactors will work. Will work when it stops. When the river dries up, it will work when the sun stops shining, and it will work when the wind dies down. So
And
Yes,
our,
and I understand hesitancy immediately after after Fukushima, but
you already had the plants, and they were safe. Has Germany ever had a major nuclear disaster? I
no,
don't think so. Because
no.
glorious German engineering,
Of course, and of course, if you have nuclear power plants, the thing that you should have learned from Fukushima
don't fill them by
is
water.
is yes, you have to be very precise with how you handle certain things, and the people in Fukushima, I don't believe, were very precise, and I'm
no.
sure somebody will correct me in the comments.
I will correct you actually right now. Fukushima was the best outcome for the worst possible case scenario. When Fukushima happened, the reactors survived the initial Category 8 earthquake, the magnitude 8 earthquake, the largest earthquake ever recorded in Japan. It survived that with no damage to the reactor. The reactor shut down entirely safe.
Okay.
What happened was when the tsunami happened, the 31st tsunami went over the seawall, flooded the reactor, and that took out all of the backup generators that keep the cooling pumps going.
Mm-hmm.
Even then, it took 3 days. 3 days for the reactors to reach such a critical level that meltdown occurred. 3 days to evacuate all the civilians. 3 days to minimize the damage as much as possible. 3 days to do as much as they could to stop things from reaching Chernobyl levels of disaster.
And for that, I have to give a lot of credit to Japan. So I suppose the major lesson to take is don't build nuclear power plants near the sea.
And I guess
That's pretty
insert
much impossible for
yeah,
Japan.
Japan's uh, island struggle. No. I mean, I guess insert German and Japanese engineering here. Oh no, we probably
But
shouldn't have the
no
Italians.
a nation like Germany should be afraid of nuclear power because there's no actual risk for nuclear power to go horribly, horribly wrong in Germany unless somebody does something stupid.
Well, there was also a threat of maybe sabotage, but we're not going to get into that
Nah.
here.
Oh,
Well, it's
stop
Anyway,
with your
Japan's
the
fault.
CS:GO.
It's just
okay, and
fault. That's another
I
alright.
wanted to make mention of another thing that I would have led this podcast off with if we did not have the Russian invasion of Ukraine. There
Fun.
was a story published, and I imagine you've seen this on the Royal American broadcast that I assume was put up on YouTube. If it wasn't, then, well,
Well,
whatever.
it wasn't because it was already out of date by the
Okay,
time.
so, all right. Elizabeth, the monarch of Great Britain, tested positive for COVID-19. On Wednesday, or
That's
maybe
Tuesday.
Tuesday, it was on Tuesday, a Hollywood reporter claimed that he had a source which confided in him that she was dead. Now, as we know, that was a hoax. I am not mentioning this dude's name for a reason, because I do not want to give that man any oxygen of publicity of his name. If you are really curious about who he is, you can take the time to Google him yourself.
So he's a man, is it? You just narrowed down our possible suspects by like 50%. we'll have him figured out before the millennium is done. Anyways.
Anyway, she is still recovering from COVID. Her symptoms have been described by Buckingham Palace as mild symptoms. Of course, at 95 years old, there's really no such thing as mild symptoms. She is still scheduled for an in-person audience next week as of now. I expect that to be canceled, however. I expect that audience to be canceled. But who knows? Maybe she will have recovered from COVID by that point and feels safe enough to resume all of her royal duties that she may have.
Like sitting around and doing nothing because Parliament runs the show? Ejaculate moment. Look, I'm telling you, it's tradition. I mean, what? I mean, we also gotta. I mean, Will, at some point we gotta naturally work in an Ohio, Michigan fight scene.
Well,
naturally work it in though.
It's true.
This is true.
This is not the time for an Ohio-Michigan fight scene, but we do wish Elizabeth all the best in her recovery, and we wish her a very speedy recovery from COVID, because no matter if you are a Jacobite or not, you should not be hoping for someone to die from COVID.
Or any disease for that matter.
Or any disease, yes.
More than I could say from the crowd on Twitter, which seemed to relish in the idea of Queen Elizabeth dying of COVID.
Oh, there was her husband, Prince
Philip.
Prince Philip. No, there were like a whole bunch of salty communists when he died who were like, yeah, or like it's like, bruhs, a man just died, regardless of what you think. Regardless of what you think of him, that's no excuse to go dancing, metaphorically, of course, dancing on his coffin. I mean, it's like
He wasn't even in his coffin when they were doing it. His body was still warm, and they were dancing around it.
yeah, no, I mean I saw, sorry to bring it back to the sad topic, but I saw somebody, saying, because comparing Putin to Hitler, of course, despite the fact that Hitler invaded Russia. Anyways, no. So it was like, hey Putin, can we just skip to the part where you're in a bunker and blow your brains out or whatever? And I'm like, okay, dude, I don't like Putin right now. I used to be somewhat sympathetic to him before that happened, but but I do not want Putin to commit suicide. I want him to come to his senses. I want Putin to be like, "Hey boys, we're gonna stop fighting and end this bloodshed. I'm sorry. I'm gonna try to make reparations for that, so that so I mean that is, but I don't want him to kill himself. I don't want him to die. I don't want anybody to die. I don't want the Russian soldiers to die. I don't want the Ukrainian soldiers to die. I don't want the civilians to die.
It is a very common trait nowadays that we kind of treat every person who happens to be on the wrong side of something as Hitler. And I think we have that same mentality, like, in regards to other wars. Like, if this leads to a war, it's not going to be like this great ideological struggle. It's going to be, now we're going to try and like ideologize it a little bit and make it like, oh, this great democratic struggle, but it's not. But he's not doing the things that were done by these kind of people. But he is not the best type of guy. I do think a lot of his policies are dog water. I think he needs to, come to his senses in that way. but I don't think he is at the level, anywhere near the level, even though as Hitler. He's not even close.
Yeah, he's not
At least,
sending.
right. He is at least he hasn't revealed himself to that level yet. Now he might wake up tomorrow and it's revealed that he's been doing the same thing that the Chinese have been doing, and in the Uyghurs, but I
It's, it's pronounced Uyghurs.
It's
I
City
apologize, but uh but yeah, it's the same. The same thing applies. That if something like that does come out, and maybe his goal is to go into Ukraine and do the same thing that Stalin did in Ukraine, then yes, I could call him Hitler or Stalin, but I just don't see it yet.
Okay, there was an interruption. For those of you listening on YouTube, there was a brief interruption. Our recording bot died in the middle of me giving this announcement, so I'm going to repeat the announcement in its entirety. The Monarchists of America are obviously in solidarity with Ukraine, and we are offering our prayers for the Ukrainian people. And we are encouraging donations to the Ukrainian people. There are a few ways you can do that. The links will be in the description of our YouTube video. Also, if you
At
are
least one.
if you are Catholic, if you are Catholic, and I'm assuming that our Catholic audience on YouTube is a Latin Rite or Roman Catholic audience, if there is a Ukrainian Greek Catholic church near you, I would suggest you either going to their website or calling their office and asking if they're taking up a collection for donations to benefit Ukraine, and giving to that as a show of solidarity with your fellow Catholics that are probably going to be suffering for the next while. Anyway,
Yeah.
we are going to move on to we're going to move on to how we would handle this differently. Like how we would probably, what we would do if we were in a position of power, if we were in a position of power in the US right now, how we would handle this crisis.
Well, I'd say the
Makes sense.
first thing I would do was share intel with China in hopes that they would foster peace negotiations.
Arise,
Well,
ye who would not make smart decisions again. Or
actually, that brings up a great point because we actually tried. We gave China intel of what Russia was doing, and then China told Moscow.
Yeah, that's
smart.
fun.
You know what? I have to admit, part of me hopes that this is part of some, like, maybe Biden all along is like ultra. He's super on our side. He's actually really sane, and he's just playing some 8-dimensional chess where he wants everybody to think that he's crazy. But it's all part of his master plan to save Western civilization. I hope it's. Is it gonna? Is that what's happening? No, but I can dream. A man can dream. I
Yeah,
gotta hold on to something.
yeah, I can dream too, but I honestly don't think he's going to be the next great uh, restorer of monarchy anytime soon. So I think we can put that theory to bed. I wish it was a theory that I could trust in, but it's not going to happen. And honestly, I don't know how I personally would deal with this.
I certainly wouldn't get
I
on the horn with Peking.
like I wouldn't get on the horde with Ping King either, but I do think I definitely would try my hardest to ensure as much humanitarian aid is given to Ukraine, but at the same time, I honestly don't think I would try to intervene all that much because it just never works out like the way we think, and I don't know.
Guys, I have an update. Critical update. 2 merchant ships earlier today, this post I'm seeing is 9 hours old, were hit in the Black Sea by Russian attacks, by Russian naval attacks. One was Moldovan and one was Japanese. The Russians are attacking random merchant freighters in the Black Sea.
Oh no, it's another Russo-Japanese. Although technically the Russians and Japanese still haven't made up since the end of World War II. So, anyways,
And fighting has begun in Ukraine. Gunshots are ringing out.
Well, like I said at the beginning, we were not going to give specific updates because by the time you see this video on YouTube, these updates will be out of date.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, but yeah. So, back to how's we would handle it. Personally, under glorious Catholic monarchy, if the same situation still would have happened, but Obama wouldn't have been in charge, so I don't know how it would. But glorious Catholic monarchy would ensure that the rights of God and His Church in Ukraine are going to be respected, and that if Russia, the only if there's any scenario where anyone would be justified militarily, which I'm not saying that there is, because under just war theory, which I'm surprised I haven't brought up yet because I was thinking about this the entire day today, under nobody currently, the Russians are not justified in just war theory. We wouldn't be justified in just war theory in the way that we would likely intervene militarily in Ukraine, but if it's for the rights of the Ukrainian Catholics, then that would be just because, yeah. Anyways, we could probably, if you want me to discuss what just war theory is, I can do that. But if not, I'll let somebody else talk about how they would handle it. Essentially, just make sure the rights of the Ukrainian Catholics are respected, and then if Putin and then just don't do anything else.
I would make it a point to tell any Ukrainian people that wish to come to the United States that our doors are open to them if they wish to come temporarily. Now, as I understand that Ukraine is barring men of fighting age from leaving the country because they are essentially forcing them into military service to defend their nation. I don't know how I feel about impressing every Ukrainian man of fighting age into service, but I can understand I understand why they're doing it, even if I probably wouldn't. As for what I would do and what a monarch would do would be to basically get as many nations as possible to place a full trade embargo on Russia and freeze every single Russian asset, the national's asset that is in the United States, and every Russian oligarch's asset, of course, the pro-Putin ones, the pro-Putin oligarchs would have all their assets in the United States freeze.
There is no reason that we, as the United States, being the current naval hegemon, cannot plant part of our fleet in the what's the strait by
The
Constantinople?
Bosporus.
Yeah, we can't. There's no reason we can't plant part of our fleet in the Bosporus, the other part in the Black Sea, and basically blockade off Russia from the sea.
Now, if we do
Well, a
that, that is
blockade
considered
would
an
be
act of war.
yeah, a blockade would be an act of war. So,
I mean,
although given that nobody declares war anymore, it would be a police action.
if
With
they-
aircraft
if
carriers.
if they're targeting allied ships, at that point it can be.
And if the Russians did fire on our ships, that is an act of war.
And then
If the
we get into Category 5 of NATO, which, if an attack on one NATO member is considered an act of war, is considered an act of war against all NATO members, and you pulled a swarm.
Yeah, that
And
would not be good for Russia. I don't know why they're doing this. It is very bad idea to
My
kind
guess
of poke the bear, and
My
that's
guess
what
is,
what they're doing.
my guess is, knowing Russian and Russian soldiers, they're probably inexperienced, young to middle-aged men, hyped up on the hyper-masculine romanticization of, war from all the propaganda they've been fed, and they're trigger happy.
Yeah, that's honestly what I think. It's something like that where it's. I don't know.
so, unless there's anything very pressing, I think on that note, we should probably call it a night, unless anybody needs to talk about anything else.
I mean, I don't know. You were already saying one prayer, but I got another one after we say
Right.
that prayer.
Okay.
I
Okay.
got the second one.
Okay. I see. Okay.
I got the second
I'm
one.
gonna
Okay.
go look. I'm gonna look for a prayer as well.
Okay.
We were not. Okay. Okay. Well. Okay.
Oh wait! Comments of the Supreme Court lady before
Supreme
we
Court lady. Okay.
wrap up.
Okay. What Supreme Court lady and what happened? I will leave it to you, Charles.
Okay, so Biden's, in order to fill the, I don't know why I'm saying the S's all of a sudden. Anyways, Biden's, in orders to get the to fills up the spot, is like, we're going to fill the court with a black woman because clearly that's because apparently felt like any position with the black woman is about the only consistent Biden policy. Got the vice president, Supreme Court, so this wasn't based on merit, so that's kind of dumb, and also I don't have any great faith in Democratic campaign choices.
If I may interject, I want to be devil's advocate here. She did sit on the DC Federal Appellate Court, and appellate courts are fairly high up. They're just under the Supreme Court. So she is an experienced judge.
Well, yeah, but that's like saying one of the people we have were the Bernsteins, who are famous in are in my neck of the woods in Michigan, was the city, in my neck of the woods in Michigan, and everybody thinks they're lawyers, and that so they elected one of the Bernsteins to the Michigan State Supreme Court. And the Bernsteins aren't lawyers, as far as I'm aware. They're just a referral firm or whatever. They refer you to actual lawyers. So that just goes to show you how great our system is when it comes to the judiciary. But he's blind, so that led to a lot of justice is blind jokes. But anyways,
So I don't foresee this nomination going very well, considering the polarization of Kavanaugh, Barrett, and I believe the Gorsuch nominations under Trump. I don't see this one being any better in terms of the polarization of the parties for this particular nominee.
Yeah, when they have, when Democrats have a majority, they will push that majority, and they will, Republicans usually don't stoop to the level of they who tried to do the Kavanaugh thing and all that stuff. So we might just get a lapdog Republican Party not doing anything, which is
They
entirely.
changed. Okay. So they changed the rules so that you don't so that confirming people is no longer a 2/3 majority. It is now a simple majority.
Yeah, they did that
Yay, rule
for
changing. Yay, rule changing.
No, yeah. I mean, they did that. They did that. I think the correct me if I'm wrong, but the Democrats were the ones who did it back in the Obama administration when Republicans wouldn't go along with
Oh, it
whoever.
was changed. Oh, correction. It was changed under Trump.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know. The whole thing with the Senate and reducing it used to be that everything had to be 2/3. Now, back in the day, when both parties were sort of under the same classical liberal agenda, just different surface level manifestations of that cringe agenda that was still better than what we have now. Um, this 2/3 thing worked, but then they decides that we're gonna have a simple majoritarianism because clearly no one in ancient philosophy warned us against majoritarianism. Oh, this is the Senate. The Senate was supposed to be okay. I mean, the Senate isn't the Senate supposed to be, the civilized or semi-aristocratic part, and Congress is supposed to be the House of Representatives is supposed to be the rabble. What the Senate is, I don't know. The Senate's dumb.
And did you know that the Senate represents more rural people than that rural people get more representation in the Senate than people who live in cities?
You think that'd be a good thing, but I don't see many agrarians in the Senate. If there were more agrarians in the Senate, I would be like yes, but given that essentially you just have a bunch of oligarchs and
Anyway.
Going back to Rome, that's fundamentally what the Senate was. It was the top elite of the oligarchy of Rome.
yeah, I mean, at least they had the what were the people who would shout veto? The patricians. Was it the patricians who would shout veto? I forbid.
The patricians were the people in the Senate. The
Oh
people
no.
who said veto.
Tribunes is what you're thinking of. The tribune of the plebs.
Oh, the tribune of the plebs. Yes, the tribune of the people of the plebs. Yeah, I took Latin. I should know this. Anyways, yeah, it was Aiden. Aiden has now deemed fit to join us finally. Okay.
Only to provide quick historical facts about ancient Rome.
All right, thank you very much for
What was
that
his
quick.
next income in 7 BC?
Well,
Anyways,
thank you very much. Thank you very much for that quick historical fact, Aiden.
yeah,
And now it's time for us to close, and we will conclude with a
a couple for
special prayer that is relevant to the current situation. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. O Lord, who hast united the various nations in the confession of thy name, we pray thee for the Christian peoples of the East. Mindful of the high place they held of old in thy church, we beg of thee to inspire them with an ardent desire to regain that place, in order to form with us one only fold under the guidance of one and the same shepherd. Grant that their hearts may be docile to hear the voice of their holy doctors, who are likewise our fathers in the faith. Let a spirit of concord and charity, which is a sign of thy presence among the faithful, hasten the day when our prayers shall be united to theirs, so that every nation and every tongue may acknowledge and glorify our Lord Jesus Christ.
Oh, and there's
Amen.
one. Wait, and there's one more I have.
Yes.
A
A
loving and
loving
compassionate. Oh, sorry. And a loving and compassionate saint designed to comfort our
Dean.
Russian brethren, Dean to comfort our Russian brethren, the victims of the
victims
long
of
and cruel persecution of the Christian name, obtain for them perseverance in the faith, progress in the love of God and of their neighbor, and in confidence towards the most holy Mother of God, prepare for them a holy priest who shall make reparation for the blasphemies and sacrilege committed against the Holy Eucharist. Grant that angelic purity, especially in the young, and every Christian virtue may once more flourish amongst them, to the end that this noble people, being delivered from all slavery and returning freely to the one fold entrusted by the loving heart of the risen Christ to Saint Peter and his successors, may at length taste the joy of glorifying the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit in the fellowship of the Holy Catholic Church. Amen.
in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. All right. Okay,
Right.
the links to our social medias will be in the description, as well as the aforementioned links to donate and give your monies. So, with that, I say good night. May God bless you, and may God bless the United States of America.